My name is Dan Dorval, and I'm President and CEO of Dorval and Cherney Financial Advisors. I am an independent certified financial planner and author of my book, Financial Success for the Rest of Us, Reality Based Financial Planning for Mainstream America.
Hi, my name is Leah Woodley. I'm an associate financial advisor with Dorval and Cherney Financial Advisors. Our conversations discuss what it means to do quality of life planning in all areas of your life.
Dan, you recently had a meeting with a 62-year-old client, and there was some fear going on there. Why don't you tell us about that meeting?
Well, we talk a lot about people being influenced by the noise of the world around them. And right now in Minnesota, there's a lot of noise. And that noise, depending on your perspectives and everything, you start to get influenced pretty heavily. And in her case, she is a widow. She has suffered some traumatic experiences, some very unexpected life events that has put her in a situation where, from a quality of life perspective, she's struggling a little bit. She feels a lot of fear and anxiety about making decisions. She doesn't want to make mistakes. And yet at the same time, she's in great shape to do whatever she wants to do from a financial perspective. That doesn't make it easy. I mean, being able to choose doesn't make those choices necessarily a lot easier. So, for example, she's got a major decision about housing. She's currently living with her daughter and her family, but she wants to move out into her own situation. But if she buys a house, she's scared the house might go down in value because we have a very elevated, housing market. She also is scared to rent because rent is expensive. She feels like she would be wasting money. So she's stuck. And this is really a common financial planning situation for us where she would say, here's what I want to do from a housing perspective, but then she would cite all of the fear reasons why she can't move forward. And this is really one of the greatest values of financial planning in the way we do it is offering someone like that a different perspective. So oftentimes we talk about our greatest value is perspective. We're looking at our situation from an outside, unemotional, what brings you quality of life type of approach. And that was our entire discussion. It wasn't about investments. It's not about the economy. It's not about any of those types of things that most people associate with financial planning. It was about how she's feeling, what she thinks she really wants from a life, quality of life perspective, and then really trying to focus her in on those actions.
So, when you have clients like this who do feed into the noise and get overwhelmed and kind of have analysis paralysis because of these things, how difficult is it to actually tear down that wall? So, you offered perspective. Is that something that is typically received, or do you notice the fear lingers?
It's a great question because we all have our own lived experience. And from a financial perspective, we are strongly influenced by maybe how we were raised, what we've witnessed in our life, the experiences we've had, both good and bad. And so it's different for everybody that we help. It really is. So in her case, she is resistant to the idea that she gets to choose how she
Mm,
wants to proceed because that has not been her experience in life.
mm,
And as we talk to her, it's not going to necessarily tear those walls down. It's not as simple as that. What we're trying to do is get her to start to think in terms of possibility. And that
mhm.
takes time for most people. For some, they might take that message and just run with it right away. For others, they have to hear that message year in, year out for a long time. And then sometimes there's a trigger in their life. And then
Mhm.
that trigger, they go, oh, Dan and Leah have been telling me this is possible. Now I feel like I've got that, that prod, and that's going to move me forward in a productive way.
Got it. So I think it is important for As to offer that perspective and then just to allow the client to see what options they do have and the pros and cons of each option. So for someone who may be in the same situation where they have decisions to make, but there is some fear around those decisions, what advice would you offer them?
Well, it's personal, so
Right, absolutely.
there's going to be a different
Mhm,
approach to everybody. I think the idea of going through their situation, now not with a big focus on numbers, but going through their resources, trying to put those puzzle pieces together to create the picture of what they're trying to accomplish, just that basic discussion with the focus on the picture itself, not the
mhm,
puzzle pieces. That's our job, is to deal with the puzzle pieces, but really stressing that picture so they can start to imagine from their own values and priorities and motivations. They can start to imagine this is the picture, because right away it for a lot of people it's blurry. They
mhm,
focus in on the puzzle pieces, and because they're focused in on the puzzle pieces, the big picture just is blurry. They're not sure what that looks like. And so when we can start to walk through that and bring some clarity, and now it comes into focus a little bit, still possibly taking time, maybe a lot of time, but now that process of going through that in a less emotional way, but still focused on what brings them quality of life, a lot of times that is the action they needed to
mhm.
start to take productive actions. And then I would say that the next thing is take one action at a time. You
Yeah.
don't have to do everything all at once. If there's
Mhm,
something you believe is going to have a direct impact on your quality of life, maybe that's travel, maybe that's a different house or upgrading your house, maybe that's a relationship that changes or a move that changes things. All of those things are scary. Human beings are generally not very comfortable with change.
yeah.
And when you start to think about change, instead of going, hey, I'm going to change a whole bunch of things all at once, if you focus on one productive change, start to get comfortable with that. Now you can take another action, and you start to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think it's important to note not to let outside pressure make you feel like you have to do everything at once either. I met with a young couple who had parents who were pressuring them to do multiple things at one time. And it's like, no, you do not have to do that. Do one thing at a time. Anything else you want to add before we close?
Well, in this case, I think it's particularly relevant to how we do financial planning. We always work in teams.
Hmm.
And, in my case, in this particular meeting, Ellen is my team member, and we provide two very different approaches and perspectives. She's a mom, she's younger than I am, she's in a different life phase. And then, my kids are grown. I have a male perspective rather than a female perspective. And for a lot of these clients, having both of that input from those different perspectives is really helpful. We have clients that when they come into that meeting, I don't know if they've had a bad experience with, maybe a male authority figure at some point in their life, but they won't look at me. They'll
Mm.
talk to Ellen almost exclusively. And then we have other situations where they won't look at Ellen, or they won't hardly talk to Ellen. They'll talk to me almost exclusively. So that team approach is something that's very unique in our business, because most people are salespeople. They don't want more than one person talking in a meeting. They're just trying to focus on whatever product or service that they're selling. And in our case, we're just focused on improving quality of life for these people through productive financial planning and advice. So having that team approach with different perspectives can be particularly powerful.
Yes, it absolutely can. Well, thank you for all the nuggets that you shared today. And until next time, have a good one.
Thanks, Leah.
Thank you.